Hello again, my beautiful thinking people, you. Okay, I guess this would be video number 2 in a long upcoming series of videos. Now, do me a favor, before we go any further, please hit the like button. Content is going to continue to improve. And subscribe, because there is going to be growing content, and there are going to be contributors in the future, and many other aspects of this channel that's going to totally keep you enthralled. So, today's video is going to touch on Drumph. I like to use his real name because it's truth. His real name is actually Drumph. His grandfather, of course, changed that for his own personal reasons. So what I'd like to touch on today is impeachment, the trial beginning, new evidence, Republicans getting braver, and people pressure working to change the course of this ordeal. On impeachment, does Donald J. Drumph deserve to be impeached? By his own admissions, yes. By his own evaluations of the past, yes. By the evaluations of all the Republicans that were serving in the Senate long ago or in the House? Yes. By the laws and statutes and the way they've been upheld? Yes. By the admissions of his own cabinet members and chief of staff, etc.? Yes. By the judgment of the people of United States? Yes. By the judgment of the Republican Party? No. By the overwhelming majority of the Republican voters? No. So what does that tell you? Of course he deserves to be impeached. Of course. Of course. You would impeach yourself if you were him. But I digress. The Republican Party and the Republican voters say he shouldn't be impeached. Now let's go back around on that one. The majority of Republican voters say they want a trial, a fair trial, and they want witnesses called and documents produced. If the Republican Party allows that to happen, will it then show everybody that Donald J. Drumph deserves to be impeached? Of course! The evidence would be overwhelming, even more so than it is now. It's just that it would be backed up by testimony from his closest allies and documents that transfer between them all. Yes, he deserves to be impeached. The trial is beginning, and the trial is pretty extensive and quite deep. The trial seems to be somewhat of a farce, but lessening each and every day. If you look at the faces of the Republican senators who are listening and watching this whole thing unfold, they walked in there thinking this was going to be a slam dunk. There's nothing to look at here. They've been watching Fox News on a regular basis, and they feel it's just a witch hunt. There's really no substance to this whatsoever. And then they get laid out with all the facts and evidence that has gone by for months that they've been ignoring and trying not to admit exists. Their faces are falling. Their demeanor is crumbling. They are acting just like the imaginary wall that Donald J. Drumph wants to build. As the trial is beginning, new evidence is coming out left, right, and center. Civilian organizations are getting records in the Freedom of Information Act, and they are coming out with new evidence on a regular basis that these guys are shysters. They are all guilty of colluding with each other in order to subvert justice and to keep the truth buried and buried deep. The last admission from Donald J. Drumph is that, well, now my side's going to come out and we have all the documents. They have all the information. Yeah, they do. They've been keeping it hidden. They haven't released it to the Congress. Now they're saying that they have it for the Senate, but they don't want to release it in the Senate either. Because if they do, and the senators were going to be honest, all of them, Republicans including Democrats, he would be convicted and removed from office. In my estimation, this new evidence is going to change some minds, hopefully. Or it'll change their minds, but they will still cover it up and act like it didn't exist. So some of the Republican senators are starting to get a little braver, and they're kind of letting their stance slip slightly, ever so slightly. That can be attributed to the pressure coming from the Republican voters themselves, who are saying, wait a second, we believe our president is innocent, so why are we not going to have a proper trial with witnesses and documents and everything that a normal trial would entail? That pressure is starting to seep into the Republican Party, where they're going to have to make some changes to the way they approach this trial. It could really, well, it should damage their reputation automatically, but it could do a lot more damage than anybody anticipates. Let's go to this deserved impeachment again. Is he guilty of bribery, treason, or crimes and misdemeanors? The evidence shows that he's guilty of many things. You could construe extorting the president of Ukraine as bribery. If you say, I will give you A in exchange for B, it could be a regular commerce type deal. It could be a drug deal, as one of his closest associates described it as. Or it could be bribery. Well, if we look at the definition of bribery, we have to look at it closely to find out if the wording matches the actions. Well, I would submit to you that if there is a nefarious purpose behind the deal, where it can be characterized as a drug deal, and there is a quid pro quo, I would say that's probably qualifying as bribery. Now again, this is an opinion channel. We try to base it on as many facts as we can gather, but it's still an opinion channel. So how about treason? Well, I'd say if you polled the people of the United States, you would probably find about 30% would maybe say it all qualifies as treason. If you polled most of the people around the world who are watching this unfold, you would probably find about 70% of them would say it rises to the level of treason. Crimes, misdemeanors, there are too many to list. He has been acting as a criminal in that position for a long time under many, many circumstances. The judges all around the country have been voting. Let me not say voting, that would imply that they're political beings. They're not political beings, but they have been handing down verdicts that show that all these things that Donald J. Trump has been in the process of executing have been either illegal, immoral, or just inconceivable. Many of the comments from many of these judges show how much disdain they have for some of the actions that this administration under Donald J. Trump has been perpetrating. There's a lot of that. Has he obstructed Congress in their pursuit of the truth? Undoubtedly. Of course. He has done everything to hide the truth from the American people and from Congress. Now, that leads me to another thing. Does that mean that the Republican Party are accessories to these crimes? Turning a blind eye to what's going on, does that absolve you of any culpability? If I know you're about to shoot somebody around the corner and I just turn my head and walk the other way, am I culpable? Or am I innocent because I walked the other way? I think that depends. So, have these Republican members of the Republican Party gone to him and said, what you're doing is wrong, we don't agree with it, we'd like you to stop? We really urge you to stop because this is craziness and we don't think you're going to get away with it. And he says, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. I have the power to do what I want. And then they say, well, I told you so. I would say that does absolve them of much of the guilt. But did they do anything else? Did they further the efforts to protect the American people from the effects of the things this individual, Donald J. Trumph, is doing? I offer they may all be just accomplices, willing accomplices. And if they say, well, I felt threatened, you're a willing accomplice. Because though you're threatened, you should have the fortitude and the moral backbone to say, I'm not going there. So, obstruction? Absolutely. Now, when will this whole thing be over? This is just my prediction. And again, some people say 2 weeks. Some people say it'll be over in a couple of days. They could vote to dismiss the articles anytime now. I'm going to say this is going to go on for at least another 2 years. Not the impeachment trial. The delivering of all the dirt, all the evidence that shows that Donald J. Trumph is not suitable to be a dog catcher. He's not qualified to run a country. He's not even qualified to run his own companies. Charities going down in scandal, companies going down to bankruptcy, one after the other after the other, even admitting to his own daughter, that bum sitting there on the side of my building is $8 billion richer than we are because he has no $8 billion of debt. Donald J. Trumph has lived his life in debt. If he has had any periods where he's been in the black, nobody seems to be talking about those periods. All I hear from every single pundit, journalist, news station is that this man has always operated in the red and been bailed out by his father and his brothers and sisters and Russia. Oh, right. No, sorry. He said, no, he doesn't get any money from Russia. Although his sons say the bulk of our money all comes from Russia. They love golf. They love golf. They love putting their money into our golf courses. But then one of them's lying. Either daddy's lying or maybe the kids are lying. Either way, Donald J. Trumph is not the businessman he's portrayed himself to be, and he's not the businessman that many of the people in the United States are portraying him to be. He's been a failure his whole life. He's always worked hard to try to get some approval status from his dad, and he's done very little to earn that approval. He's been bailed out way too many times. And if you bail him out this time, you live with the consequences. So once again, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, make sure you don't miss any future content. And my motto, never give up and never give in, but keep an open mind. Knowledge is power. Don't fail yourself.